Good day. This is the first trial of our Google Sheet-based backend. We have developed an application here that shows a dashboard, some charts, and it will use Google Sheets as a backend. We have created 3 sheets. The first one is categories. It has columns, ID, name, and color. The other one is provinces. It has name and ID. The other one is contacts, which is ID, full name, letter, mobile, telephone, email address, category, gender, street address, city, state, province, and postal code. As you can see, the province is going to be on column M, will be the ID of what will be here. And also the category that will be on column G will be the category that will be shown here. So when the application starts, we have linked it through Google Console with the ID number that is there. So you start the application and it displays the dashboard. Currently, we have 0 records in all of our tables. Now, because we've selected categories here, what I'm going to demonstrate is how we'll go about categories. You can access them from the menu, or you can access them from here. So I'm going to click categories here. And then this goes and reads these current sheets. So currently this is blank. So let's start adding a category. So we're going to use fake data for everything that we're going to be doing here, whether we're adding contacts, whether adding provinces, whether we're adding the categories. So friends, let's add the category. So this is creating a record via the Google Sheets. So this is friends, and then this is the color that is used there, same as that one color that's used there. So let's say okay, because it's added. Then it reads the back end sheet, and then it lists the information here. So if we wanted to change this to be, for example, something else, we can say this is colleagues, for example. And then we do a yes, and automatically our Excel spreadsheet here is going to be updated with that particular information using the ID, So let's add another category, family. The color is that one. Let's say yes, let's save it. And then it is saved in our backend. So we have family. Let's create another one, government. Let's choose a color, red, for example. Let's save that one. So what I'm demonstrating now is how to create records into that Google Sheets. For example, if we wanted to delete government, we can just click delete there and confirm. And what it's going to do here is to find that record using that particular ID and then delete it. The way that the backend functionality works is that each and every record that is supposed to be here is supposed to have a unique ID, which is a 15-character generated ID by the tool itself. So you can create the number of columns that you want, and then they will sit here. Okay, let's create another category, referrals. So it's creating another big category there. Okay, if we go back to the dashboard now, the dashboard will indicate that we have 3 categories, So now what we want to do now is to add provinces. Okay, so let's go to provinces so that we can see what's going on. 0 currently. Let's go to categories. Yep, to provinces, sorry. Let's add a new province. Okay, there it is, Noord something, Noord Brabant. Let's add another one. Tokyo, Japan. Tokyo, Japan. And then it's listed here. Let's add another one. Western Cape, which is a province here in South Africa, where I'm at. Let's do join to China. There it is. And also here, let's say that we wanted to change this particular one or clone it or create a copy, Western Cape 1. Because what happens is if we type a province that's actually going to be existing, it will not accept it. Let's clone this one and do a save. So because the name is supposed to be unique, it won't allow you to save the particular province. So as you can see here now, we have about 4 provinces. And then there in the dashboard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's actually 5. There in the dashboard, we currently have about 5 provinces now. So this is a counter and all sorts of things. What we have not added is the contacts, which is basically coming to this particular table. Yeah. So let's go to contacts and then we add contacts. So this is going to load existing provinces and load existing categories for us to actually create them based on that. So there's the person. Let me expand this a little bit. There's the person. There is the existing category. There's the existing province based on what we have captured, which is basically sitting here and sitting here, and then being listed in relation to these selects, and then we do a yes. Okay. Now the contact has been saved. Now, if you go to contacts that are here, you'll discover that the person has been saved. Remember, this information that is here is generated from fake data. Okay, so let's add another contact. There is the person. Let's create a category, referrals. Let's create a province for the person. The person is added. And there's the person, Harley Jackson. Now, this list that is shown here is sorted out by the first name. For example, there's Becca, there's Harley there. Let's add another person. This is West Best. Okay. Western Cape, family. This is saving again. West Best. The person is saved, and then it lists the contacts that are there. Now, if we activate gender here, we have female and male, 2 females and 1 male. So we'll go to the dashboard. Now, what the dashboard is going to indicate for us is that the person is 3, male is 33%, and females is 67%. And then depending on the first name letter, for example, there's a B here, which is that one there. And then there's an H, which is that one there. And then this is a W, which is that one there. So we can always have a chart that is defined based on what is it that we're adding here. Like, for example, the letter distribution. Solis, colleagues, Western Cape 1, we save them. And then there is the person. And then how it displays here, it's sorted by the full name, So it's Becca, it's Solis and things, because we're having filters in terms of how we want to show our records. So the alpha chooser is working properly. The column chooser is also working properly in terms of which field we want, and our dashboard is working properly. Now, to generate an Excel spreadsheet here, you just go and click here. And then what it does is to generate a report based on the information that is here. So let's open this. I know we're saving the information to Google Sheets, but we're generating Excel spreadsheets. This is just another way of showing that we can have the functionality to export our information to another tool. So even with provinces and also even with the categories, you are able to generate reports by just clicking that. So this simple example is to show how we can use Google Sheets as a back-end database for storing our information. This is basically using the REST API. And of course, the way that we define systems in relation to this, it cannot work in a relational fashion because it's not a relational database. It's just a Google Sheet that we're storing our information in. And for example, the information that is here, of course, is just linked to my account right now, which basically means that you need to get a refresh token, you need to get a client ID and a client secret to be able to use this, because that is all that is needed. And then also the sheet ID that is here to actually access the information that is here via the tool itself. So behind the scenes, this is of course a system that is actually running on Laragon, you know. So we've deployed it on Laragon, and it's actually available. Where is this? SD5 address book, which is this one here. So if we go through to our www folder, there is the information of the app. There are our assets. There is our scripts, and there is our styles, which is the CSS that comes with this particular application. For example, now the code of this application has not been minified. The code of this application has not been tree shaken. So that's why you'll be seeing a lot of files that are there. But the way that it has been built using B4X. What we do have in B4X is a transpiler, which is Banana. It's currently sitting at version 9.11. You're going to also use SithasoDaisy. We're currently sitting at version 55, in line with DaisyUI. And then what we do is to basically, okay, this is the fake data generator. And then we create our layout files in relation to how you see the information that is sitting on the user interface. So currently, what you see in relation to this here, the drawer, the navigation bar, and the dashboard starts from this particular layout here, which is the base layout. Where, for example, this is the nav bar, this is the drawer, and things like that. And then what happens is we have created different layouts. This is the categories. This is the layout that gets used by the categories. This is the table that you see. You know, this is S5 table, and then this is the model that you see when you're entering information about the categories. Same with contacts. Contacts, we've created a table and also a model, and also provinces. Provinces we've created a table of provinces and then also a model. So the way that it works is that all of these things are basically defined within the application itself. And then, for example, this is the report of categories that you will see when you generate categories. This is the report of contacts that you see that, for example, will be generated. So the system itself, it goes and reads the information in the Excel, in the Google spreadsheets, that where you save it, and then it generates the particular report that you see here. So that is how it basically works. And then this is where we're keeping our settings. So this file, the system will read the settings file and then get your client IDs and your secrets and all sorts of other things. And then there's some of the icons that we're basically using there. Now, if we look in terms of the source code, for example, this is the category source code, you know. So what we have defined here is that when the code is transpiled to JavaScript, it will call the show method to show the categories, and then this will load the layout and then build the categories table and build the model that you see. And then like for example, add a category and things like that. Like if you go to categories, you have your add category, which is basically what you see here, you know, and all sorts of other things. Oh, this is the table. The table is basically this here, and then the model is also below here. So, but what you're saying there is title categories, which is basically that thing. And then the columns that we have here, which is this one. We show the color and then the name, which is basically the color and then the name, you know. And then happens when you're adding a new category, when you're exporting to Excel, you know, it goes and opens a report file and then generates a report. And then when you mount the categories, like when you delete category here, and then when you save a category, it reads the file and then associate it with that and then saves it. For example, here, this is the class that we're currently using, the code model that we're using. It's saying go to the categories sheet in Google, create if it's needed. If it doesn't exist, create it using the particular fields that are defined here. And then the user account, which basically we can define the system to use from 1 to 100 users. So it usually just changes the settings inside, you know, and then you get connected to the Excel spreadsheet, to the Google Sheet, which is basically this one here in terms of what we do, and then perform a create, and then check if the name is unique, and then create an update if you have an update, and then you show them the swirl that says the category has been saved or whatever, and then you load existing categories, which basically loads the various categories that you see here. For example, if you add a new one here, and then you say yes, and then what it does is to fire a category has been saved, which is basically the code that you are seeing being executed here. You know, the category has been saved. This is what you're seeing here, but now this is running in JavaScript, which is what I showed you earlier on. So the file that we need basically to do all of this is this here. So when you get the file here, you need to actually import it to your project. So you are telling that go to the header of your application and add the sheetAPI.js, which is basically everything that works behind the scene to be able to write the content that we want to write to Google Sheets. So all of this information that you see here, the writing, the reading, the deleting, is basically controlled by that particular file. And that particular file is being called internally by this banana related, script called Google Sheets API. So we've made this to be easier to use by defining a class model so that we can make it easy to use within Banana. But if you want to use it as a separate entity, then you can just get that JavaScript file and then you can use it in your Node.js environment, or you use it in your browser environment. So what I've done is to create as much information as possible about how it basically works. But let me open this via Visual Studio. So you either use this as a JavaScript file, or you can use it within Banana, which is basically your scripts converted to, this is the code, this is the README. So the code is pretty intense. It's about 1,000, more than 1,000 code lines. So it's pretty intense in terms of what is it that it does, but it will create your records on the Google Sheets, updated, deleted based on an ID. So one needs to also be considerate in terms of the Google Sheets rate limiting, the number of connections you can have to a single sheet. For example, when you have real-time information that you want to run, the number of users that can be connected at the same time. But basically, this was just the first start of app creation using the Google Sheets as a backend. And the only thing that you basically need is to have your Google Sheets configuration set up properly in terms of the connection parameters. And then you are able to actually use it to create beautiful applications like this. And you can have the information stored in Google Sheets, and you can use that information for other things, whether it's creating charts and all sorts of other things. So this is our first application that is using Google Sheets as a backend. And as you can see, it's a beautiful application. It's recording our contacts, it's displaying the dashboards and all sorts of other things. So this works well for a single-use application by a single person. This works well for multi-user application. But considering that some of the applications might be intense, so it might be limited to not large-scale application where, for example, you need to think about concurrency issues where you're connecting to the single Excel Google Sheets spreadsheet like this one, but basically your information is there. As I've indicated, it's based on fake data that we're generating with the fake data class, which is basically this one here. I call it fake it. So you can give it whatever columns you want it to generate, and then it just generates fake data based on what you actually specify. So we have created this, like for example, these are task names, these are project statuses, these are project names, and all sorts of other things. So it's something like this that can work in relation to generating the big data that we need. So this is how this particular application works, and it's our first try in relation to using Google Sheets as a backend. The good thing about this application is that it teaches you everything that you need to know about how to create CRUD-based applications. For example, we are generating a dashboard, and these are the widgets that you see. And then you're able to click a widget and it takes you through to the various information that you want to see. We are also able to see a chart. And then in this chart, you can also just download it, and then go there, open it, and then you can use it for what you want to use it, whether you want to put it in a presentation or something. So you can use that. And also through the contacts listing, we were able to load information from the categories, and we were also able to load information from the provinces. Like for example, when we're editing information here, we're able to load information from categories, which is sitting in another table, and also provinces, which is sitting in another table, and as a result, creating relationships between the information that we have. Because if you go here, for example, these are the IDs of the provinces, these are the IDs of the categories. But if you go to the contacts, this is saved as the category ID here, and this is saved as a province ID here. So we have created a relationship between the provinces and the categories and the contact, but this doesn't work like your normal relational database and all sorts of other things. So yeah, so this is how far we've gone with our presentation, and this is how beautifully it works. And it's able to save, it's able to edit, it's able to delete information, and it's also able to display the information in relation to widgets. And we're also able to export the information to another a reporting template or format that is like Excel. So that's how we have been. So the sheetAPI.js is not a free library. You need to get it with a certificate of appreciation, and you'll get this demo example for free, and you then can get the sheetAPI.js to be able to use it for your application. And then the fake data generator, of course, that's generating the information that is here. We can also get it. It's not a big deal. But at any time you want to develop web applications that will use your Google Sheets as a backend, then this makes it very easy for things to happen in this particular way. Okay, then. Thank you so much for your time and going through this. This has been a very exciting project. I'm very excited about it because I've always been fascinated about Google Sheets and how people actually create records to it and get records from it, and all sorts of other things. And there are very big possibilities in terms of how this kind of backend can be used for other interesting things. Thank you so much.